This project is supported by Quantum Paradigm.
All right, let's jump right in. The Five Dysfunctions of a Team by Patrick Lencioni. That has been a total game changer for so many leaders. We're going to unpack his simple but really powerful model that gets to the heart of why so many teams just don't work and what it takes to build one that absolutely does. So Lencioni kicks things off with this incredibly bold idea. He basically says the ultimate competitive advantage isn't your strategy or your tech or your money. Nope, it's teamwork. It's something that is so powerful, but at the same time, so incredibly hard to find. And that really leads us to the core question of his entire book. I mean, if we all kind of know that teamwork is the secret sauce, why is it so hard to get right? Why do so many teams, even ones packed with brilliant people, just struggle to click? Well, Lencioni's model gives us the roadmap to that answer. What he found is that when teams fail, it's not just random bad luck. It actually comes down to 5 pitfalls that are, kind of natural for humans to fall into, but they're also super dangerous. And here's the key. These aren't 5 separate problems. Oh no, they're all linked together like a chain reaction that can just completely sabotage a team. And here's the model. You can see it's built like a pyramid. That's really important because these dysfunctions are stacked. One leads directly to the next, which leads to the next. So to really get how teams break down, we have to start at the very bottom, at the foundation, and build our way up. Let's start there. Okay, so let's dig in. The entire model, everything else rests on this one thing, trust. But Lencioni is talking about a very specific kind of trust here. This isn't just, oh, I trust you'll get your work done. It goes way, way deeper than that. He calls it vulnerability-based trust. It's that feeling, that confidence that everyone on your team has your back, which lets you be totally open about things without having to be all careful and protective. For a lot of us, especially high achievers, being vulnerable feels just wrong. It's risky. But Lencioni says without it, you can never, ever build a solid team foundation. And you can see how this foundation, or the lack of it, changes absolutely everything. Look at the left side. That's a team burning all its energy on office politics and just covering their own backs. Now look at the right. That's a team using all that same energy to actually solve problems. The day-to-day experience is just night and day. In the story part of the book, there's a character named Martin who is the perfect example of this. He's the guy who's always on his laptop in meetings, and that little action sends a huge message, right? It says what you all are talking about isn't as important as my email. He's not really there, he's not engaged, and he is definitely not being vulnerable. And that one small habit just poisons the trust for the whole team. So you can see how this pyramid starts to build. When you don't have that foundation of trust, it creates something else, a very specific and damaging fear. The fear of conflict. Think about it. If people don't really trust each other on a personal level, there's no way they're going to get into a passionate debate about ideas. They're too scared to challenge one another. So instead of having productive arguments, they create what Lencioni calls artificial harmony. It's where everybody's nodding and smiling on the surface, but the real issues are just boiling underneath. And this quote just nails the real price you pay for avoiding conflict. It doesn't make things better. Yeah, it actually makes things worse. That quiet tension means the most important stuff is never really debated, so nothing important ever gets decided. The team just keeps spinning its wheels in the mud. So if you're avoiding healthy conflict, it becomes almost impossible for a team to get to the next crucial level, because if you can't argue and debate openly, you can never really truly commit to a decision. And this point is so critical. When people on the team don't get a chance to weigh in, to voice their opinions and feel heard, they just don't buy into the final plan. Sure, they might nod along in the meeting to avoid more conflict, but they walk out of that room with zero real commitment. Now, this isn't about everyone agreeing. In fact, Lencioni says trying to get consensus is a total disaster. The goal is buy-in, and buy-in comes from one simple thing, feeling like you were heard. Most people don't actually need to get their way. They just need to know their perspective was genuinely considered. When they feel that, they can get behind the final decision, even if it wasn't their first choice. It's all about this mantra, disagree and commit. Now, when you have a lack of real commitment, you've created the perfect environment for the 4th dysfunction to grow. Because if people never really bought into the plan in the first place, they're going to shy away from doing the one thing that truly drives results. We're talking about peer-to-peer accountability. You know that moment you see a teammate dropping the ball or doing something that hurts the team, but you don't say anything because you just want to avoid that awkward, uncomfortable conversation. It's already hard to do, but it's basically impossible if you know deep down they never even committed to the plan anyway. Lencioni's point here is that the team leader should not be the main person holding people accountable. On the absolute best teams, it's peer pressure. That fear of letting down your teammates, the people you respect, that is a way more powerful motivator than any fear of the boss. Great teams hold each other to a high standard. And that brings us to the top of the pyramid, the final dysfunction. This is the ultimate reason why teams fail, and it's a direct result of all the others we've just talked about. See, when nobody is holding each other accountable, it becomes really easy for people to focus on things other than what the team is actually trying to achieve. They start to prioritize their own ego, their own career, or maybe the goals of their specific department over the one big goal of the team. This is such a perfect real-world example. In the book story, the company is really struggling, and the head of marketing's first instinct is to say this. Her priority isn't, how do we solve this problem together? It's, how do I make sure everyone knows my department isn't the problem? She's protecting her own turf at the expense of the team's success. Okay, so that's the whole downward spiral. But what does it look like when a team gets it right? The cool thing is, now that we understand the dysfunctions, we can just flip the whole pyramid over and see the 5 behaviors that make a team truly great. It all starts by building that vulnerability-based trust. That trust makes it safe for the team to have real productive conflict around ideas. And when all those ideas are on the table, it leads to genuine commitment to decisions. That commitment then gives everyone permission to hold each other accountable. And finally, that accountability is what keeps everyone laser focused on the only thing that really matters, getting collective results. And really, the big takeaway is this: none of this stuff is rocket science. The ideas themselves are pretty simple. The hard part isn't understanding the theory, it's doing it. It takes a ton of discipline, courage, and just sticking with it day after day that most teams just can't manage to do. So that brings us to the final and maybe most important question. As you look at this model from that foundation of trust all the way up to the peak of results, which one of these feels the most familiar? Which one hits a little too close to home for your team? Because figuring out where you need to start, well, that's the first step to building a team that can actually win.